Most churches have ministries. Very few churches have a pathway. If I were to ask your parking lot team, your kids ministry team, your usher team, what is the next steps, all of them, for our first time guests, would they know it? Would they be able to say it in less than 15 seconds? If not, you don't have a very clear pathway in place for your church. And this is really important. Most businesses understand this. In fact, businesses that we all know and use, like Amazon or Netflix, maybe Disney or Starbucks, like they all understand there's a user journey to their product or their service, and they spend a lot of time defining that journey and then working around it. As a church, we have a guest journey that we need to be clear about. That way, when it's simple and clear, people will take next steps with us. They'll get to the point where they're receiving the full benefits of our church, and they love our church because it's something that they need in their life, and they know they need it. So in order to do this, it's really about transformation. The focus of the user journey is to help them get the most out of our church, to be transformed by the ministry that God has given us to have. It's not really about attendance, getting people to show up. It's more about when they do show up, what are the benefits that they can have. So I want to unpack this very simple framework that we've helped pastors across the country over dozens and dozens of campuses and church communities all over the country implement over the years for the last probably 15 years or so. So this is going to be simple. I'm going to give it to you in this video. Hopefully you can implement this. You already have all of this in place in your church. It's just a matter of how do you communicate it very, very well. So in the marketing world, we understand that people buy benefits. They aren't buying a product. They're buying the benefits of the product. So from a church perspective, we are offering some really amazing benefits for people. We just have to communicate it in a way that they understand that they need it. There's people driving by our church every Sunday and they don't understand that they need to stop and come in. So the purpose of this is help them stop, come in, experience what we have for them. Okay, so the first benefit that churches are really good at, your church is really good at, is providing hope. So hope is something people need. Hope is what we deliver. It's through the gospel. It's through the sermons. It's through our service experience with worship and everything designed towards providing hope and encouragement, providing truth, and ultimately providing Jesus to people to give them that hope. So we want to answer that question. Is there hope for my life? Oh, yes, absolutely. We know that answer. And we need to point them to our Sunday morning. So the mechanism where they can receive hope at our church is the Sunday morning worship experience. So again, they can receive hope anywhere, right? They can be in a lobby, a bathroom, or whatever. We're just saying as an organization, as a church, the number one place we've designed for people to receive hope is our worship experience on a Sunday. Okay, so that's number one. The second problem that we're really good at is connection or community. So the second step in our user journey is to find community. So again, people need this. They need good people in their lives, and they're seeking that, and they just don't know where to find it. But of course, at a church, we are designed to help people find their best friend or their spouse or just a really core group of friends that they can do life with. So we need to point them to where that is. And typically the mechanism within our church is going to be some sort of small group. The service is a large group where everybody comes together and we sit in rows and we listen. But we have typically a small group experience. Typically churches are doing this during the week. There's a small group that meets in a home or a coffee shop or maybe even at the church during the week. But it's a smaller group of people where you get to know their names and their stories. And we need to point people towards that to say, hey, this is the number one place where you can find community. You can connect with other people. So that's step two. So again, step one is come to a worship service. You'll find hope. Step two, come to our small group and you'll find community. Now, again, some churches have Sunday schools, which that's great. That's a great place to find community in a smaller group of people. So we just need to communicate that that's the benefit. Hey, if you need to find some good people, make sure you check out our Sunday school. Okay. So in communication, we're always, from a marketing perspective, trying to communicate and answer the question, what's in it for me? Like, why should I care about Sunday schools? Why should I care about small group, life groups, connect groups, whatever you call it? The reason is you get community out of those things. And so we need to communicate that as a church and as church leadership. And we need to communicate these things consistently and clearly across all different platforms so that everybody understands these are the next steps. Okay, step number 3 for the user journey. People need a sense of purpose. They need to grow and become a better version of themselves. They need to know that God has created them for a purpose. And typically in your church, you're going to have some sort of discipleship process. We need to make sure we point people towards that process as a step on their user journey. So this is where they find spiritual growth. They find clarity for their life. They really discover the purpose that God has for them. So we want to answer the question, why did God create me? And typically you're going to have some sort of discipleship process in place. If you don't have that, you should have some sort of really clear call to action. This is our place where people come to find, at least kick off the discipleship process. A lot of churches we see, they have a growth track, or they might have a class called Starting Point that is kind of an introduction to the church. And from there might be 3 or 4 other classes or that they can take that teaches them more about the church, teaches them more about faith and baptism and, just maybe finding freedom in their life, those type of things. So you already have this in place. Maybe you just need to organize it and structure it. Some churches that we've worked with, they'll have like one class that's like a meet and greet, and it's a starting point where they then point you to a bunch of different things that you can take. So that's a great thing. But what is that thing called, and how can we promote it as the mechanism? Like, hey, we want to help you discover your purpose. You should come to Starting Point, the Starting Point class. That's where it starts, right? And that's where you can discover your purpose. So it should be, from a marketing perspective, at least once a month, you're promoting this thing, if not every week. Some churches we work with, they do it every week. There might be step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And every week is every week of the month is a different step, but you can join at any time. Or you might say, hey, first of every month, we do this thing. It's a big welcome event. You should come to that. So at least once a month, if not every week. Okay. And we want to promote that as step 3. So, and then step 4, people need significance in their life. They want to make a difference. They want to impact the lives of other people. And at a church, we do that. Every single week, you can volunteer at our church and make an impact in somebody else's life. If you can place people in an area of their strength, like if they're really outgoing and friendly, then maybe they're a greeter. Or if they're very technical, maybe they serve in production. Or if they're really good with kids, they could work with teenagers or kids in your kids program. So we just want to help people make an impact with their life, to find meaning and to contribute. And we already have that in place in our church. It's usually by volunteering, or maybe there's an outreach, or maybe a mission that you're doing across the globe. We just want to help people make a difference and communicate that as a step on our user journey. So let's kind of recap our steps. When we do this right, we help people to stay longer in our church. If they're a first-time guest, they stay longer, they build relationships, they grow spiritually, and they do it quickly. They become part of the mission of the church, and the church becomes their home. This is my home church. What we found is that as a first-time guest, the quicker you can get them to serve on a team, the more likely they are to stick. They don't just leave when they get to that point. So how do you create a user journey? And again, I'm submitting this to you, like we've just done this over and over again. I would say it's these 4 things, and it's very simple. It has to be simple. If it's complicated, I know churches, you probably do a dozen different things, but really you just need to communicate these 4 things. Hey, come to church on Sunday, get into a small group, come to our Starting Point growth track welcome event, whatever that's called. That's one of the steps. And then number 4, serve on a team. If somebody does that within our church, they will experience the promise that God has given us for them. So help them understand those 4 clear next steps. As a pastor, preach this talk about it from the stage, but everybody else, from the greeter to the usher to the parking lot and the kids volunteer, the small group leaders, everybody should know these 4 next steps. You should have it on signs in your lobby, put it on your website. Everything should center around these 4 big ideas, these 4 steps that we have for people, and then communicate that very, very clearly over a long period of time so they understand what the next steps are and where they are on this user journey. Growth isn't about creating more programs in churches. It's about really communicating clearly about what we have for people. When people know their next steps, then they move. They actually take those next steps. They grow and they love the church. They realize this church is exactly what they need, and they contribute. So contributing could be volunteering, donating, being a giver, a regular giver, and we get to create that when we're clear about who we are with our next steps. Hey, listen, this is Michael with Church Brand Guide. Hopefully this is helpful to you. We have this built into our smart website system on the back end to help people take these next steps within the software. It's on the back end of your website. So understand that the user journey is already in place. You already have this. You just have to communicate it very clearly. And now you have the tools on the back end of your website with our smart website system to help people to fill out forms, register, take next steps, get reminders, emails, text messaging, all those things to help them. We also want to mix in with the automations. We want to mix in the personal touch. So a phone call, a person reaching out to them, that's very important. It can't be outdone by any automation. It's both. You need both legs to make this work. So again, this is Michael with Church Brand Guide. Hopefully this is helpful to you. And if you don't have this in place, make sure you start to get clarity about your user journey, the next steps that you have for people. Make it simple so they understand where they are and what they need to do next.